Hello and welcome to another edition of the Dallas Aftershow here on JLJ Media. I'm James Lott Jr. I want to thank everybody who has been watching the show, all the Facebook groups, Dallas Facebook groups. I love you guys. Thank you so much for letting me post it there. To all the Dallas chat rooms and message boards. I've been enjoying the engagement, and thanks for watching my shows and listening to them. They're available audio and video. So wherever you get your podcast, wherever you watch videos on YouTube, I'm here under Dallas Aftershow. And I want to tell you, I've been getting suggestions on what topics to talk about. And sometimes we're on the same page. I'm like, I was doing something for another show, and it was exactly what I was going to do that week. So you have suggestions, please send them to me. I like to hear them. I'll put them on a list, and we'll get to them. Because a lot of people want to know what I think about certain things. This one, I had an idea. I was going to do some of the guys. I'm gonna do one on Christopher. I'm gonna do one on West Palm. I'm gonna do one on those. But I thought, let me go to the ladies, because I did the last show. I did talk about how masculine the show was. I thought, let me do one with ladies, and I'm choosing Katherine Wentworth, one of my favorite characters on the show, in the series, because she was crazy. I like a crazy bitch. I do love it. Played by Morgan Brittany, who was beautiful. I'm sure she's still beautiful now. I haven't seen her now, but back in the day, that beautiful auburn hair, red hair. Those beautiful blue eyes. They were very bright, expressive. She was so good. She, of course, was the half sister of Pam and Cliff. They came on nice and, hi, Rebecca's daughter, and nicey nice. But turned out to be a little obsessed with Bobby, to say the least. I'm saying little being funny, because she was a lot obsessed with Bobby. But also, there's a lot of drama within the Wentworth Barnes family, or Barnes-Wentworth family, how you want to figure it out, about the Wentworth Company and Cliff and the Barneses. And so Cliff, we saw a lot of Afton Cooper when she was with Cliff. There's a lot of Cliff and her and Rebecca, and a lot of infighting. Cliff and her were not very close. They tried to come together for things. But Cliff, of course, in the height of his Ewing hatred and trying to get against them. So at one point, after her mother's plane crash, because the whole thing, she blames Cliff for it. Oh, she goes off on her and blames him for his obsession with the Ewings killing basically their mother. But most of her storyline was centered around Bobby. Bobby had already had two chicks hanging around. Yeah, Jenna Wade, Pamela Barnes Ewing. Back and forth, this and then, stuff. So he was busy with them. Katherine wanted him for herself. She was in love with him. And Patrick Duffy plays Bobby, was so good at being so just like, what are you talking about? I didn't know you felt this way. She was just up behind the scenes to orchestrate a way to get Pam away from Bobby. She was not fans of Jenna Wade at all either. She slept with JR. And JR lied to her, said, I'm going to show this tape of us sleeping together. And that whole thing. She goes to confess / defend herself. And Bobby was like, I didn't even know. But that is a scene when she's sitting there telling him that stuff. And Bobby's so kind of cold to her, which I was like, again, I'm learning this new stuff about Patrick Duffy and his wonderful acting choices over the years. I just never really known it before. But he plays it like, they give him these lines where he's like, if I cared about you, then I would care about you seeing with JR. But we're just friends, so I don't care like that. But now that you did this, it's even, he was so matter of fact. It's like, I'm marrying Jenna Wade. There's no chance for us. There never was a chance for us. And his acting choice was not to be over the top histrionics, which was very matter of fact. She was the one who played the over the top part. And I just thought, that's really interesting, the way they have him playing it, where it's just like, we're friends. You slept with JR, that's your deal, that's between you and him, whatever. I'm with her over here, I don't care so much. And Jenna was like, please pick me. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but basically pleading for him to pick her. One of the seasons, way after the Who Shot JR, I remember watching this live too. JR's obvious again. Shots are fired. I remember thinking, oh my God, really again? I almost started to laugh. Then you see the chair turn and Bobby fall off the chair. I remember being so shocked. And that was a cliffhanger. It was like, who shot Bobby? But in JR, it was so smart. It wasn't in Bobby's, it was in JR's office. So everybody assumed they're trying to go to JR. And that Bobby literally was the accidental target. Turns out later when she tries to kill him by injecting him, and I was laughing because he's blind. She's trying to inject him and he fights her off. So they come in and get her, and she confesses to the whole thing that she was looking for Bobby. It wasn't for JR. JR just assumed it was for him, and it wasn't for him. Well, all that went down, of course, and then one of the famous cliffhangers of all time, episodes of all time, is Bobby dies. She's instrumental in that because in a wig, in a station wagon, sees Bobby and Pam kissing in front of her house, and now they're getting back together. They're back together. He left Jenna Wade. I mean, he's gonna leave Jenna Wade and all that stuff. That comes after. That comes later. But he kissing her sees Katherine in that station wagon coming towards them, pushes her out of the way, gets hit by the car, and later dies in the hospital. She dies on impact. They have her show her come back, face all scarred up and bloody. She's dead. So she was part of that whole thing. So a year or so later, it's all a dream. What happened to Katherine then? That means that if they reversed it, Katherine's still alive. She didn't kill Bobby. She didn't drive that car. And they make reference when Pam leaves the house to say goodbye to him once again. Of course, the last was dream. She hears noises, she keeps jumping. I couldn't stop laughing. She kept jumping. Because that wasn't going to be the last time a car was coming at her. That was very smart of them to do that. Very smart of them to that little detail. No real mention of her. They didn't bring her back on the show. I always say brought her back on the show. I love the character. I should have brought her back on the show, but I guess they didn't want to go that route again. But when Pam decided to leave, Victoria Principal, when she was all badly scarred up, we got a glimpse of her. She showed up and kind of does the whole tirade of why, you were in my life, you had the better life, blah, blah. And then they shoot her off, but she just goes away. On the TNT series, I believe they just mentioned she died. I think they mentioned, you guys can tell me at home, I think they mentioned she died sometime in between there. But that could be a lie. She could be out there somewhere doing something. I wish I could have brought her on. That TNT show, there's so many ideas I have I could have done. I wish I wrote for that show. I wish I did. I wrote those, because I would have wrote it so differently. Would it be funny if Auntie Rebecca got together with Pamela Rebecca and got together with Christopher, and they all were evil together? I mean, that's all the story. So that's your Dallas after show for Katherine Wentworth, a character I enjoyed on the show. I thought was great. And Morgan Brittany, again, those eyes, that hair, pure delight. I'm James Lott Jr. Follow me everywhere, James Lott Jr. We'll see you next time on another episode of the Dallas After Show.